An entitled crazy Karen tries to steal my personal property for her daughter's wedding. Things got so bad that the cops had to be called and review a fake receipt that this crazy Karen had created, all under the guise of getting our stuff for free. Here's what happened. About 10 years ago, I had a metalworking project with 2-inch stainless steel tubing, and when it was done, I had several feet left. So I made a walkway guardrail and some other stuff, including some large garden arches with plant shelves for my wife. My wife took pictures of all of this, as she was very proud of what I had done, and she posted it on social media. Well, because of those photos, a random woman shows up to our house wanting to borrow one for an upcoming wedding. They wanted to use it as a wedding arch. For the record, we don't know who this lady is, and she only saw pictures of it and contacted my wife about them online. And my wife told her that they were too big to move around, but despite being told this lady showed up to our house anyways. First, she said she wanted to borrow it, but I tell her that they are too large for her pickup truck that she brought with her, and being stainless steel, they are quite heavy. It literally took a forklift to put them in place, and they are anchored to the ground. We can't just pick them up and give them away that easily. This entitled Karen then says that she can get someone to pick one up, and then wants me to get a forklift to load it in. And at this point, I was just blown away by her entitlement. I said no, I have to cut it loose from its anchors, as it was literally never intended to move. I would also have to move large landscaping stone blocks just to get to it. But with all this in consideration, this entitled Karen was not having it. She stated that she just must have this arch, or it will ruin her baby's wedding. Then she wants me to paint it white. But the point of stainless steel is that you don't have to paint it, ever. And it's a pain in the butt to sand, prep, prime, and paint polished stainless steel. And if you wanted to remove the paint afterwards, it's just a nightmare. So I said no, absolutely not. It was at this moment that this entitled Karen had an absolute nuclear meltdown. She started screaming and crying, accusing me of permanently damaging her daughter and ruining her wedding and how it's gonna look. And at this point, my wife chimes in, trying to de-escalate the situation even just a little bit. My wife tells her that she can have one made, but it costs a little bit over $4,000, as well as have it painted somewhere else. But this entitled Karen doesn't want to pay for the arch because she's claiming that we were supposed to lend it to her for free. Eventually, after some back and forth, this entitled Karen finally leaves and goes dark for about 2 weeks. Then, out of nowhere, I get a call from my wife stating that this entitled Karen is in the driveway with other people, as well as a pickup truck that the arch very clearly will not fit into, and the county sheriff in tow. And at this point, I knew things got serious. She's holding a receipt for the arches, both of them, with a sale price of $200, which was obviously home printed with no business name, no business or home address, no signatures, nothing. And she is now expecting this deputy sheriff to enforce a receipt that very clearly was forged. Her family and friends are all arguing aggressively with my wife, with the deputy in between all of it. This entitled Karen is screaming. I eventually told the deputy what went on and that he talked to my wife while I held the entitled crazy Karen off, as well as her family and friends. Thankfully, the deputy heard our cries and eventually kicked them off of our property with the help of some backup. And while I can't tell you how the wedding went, I can tell you that it didn't happen under my wife's arches. I'm not about to move 4,000 stone blocks, as well as tearing up my yard and getting a cutting torch just to cut the arches loose. And all under the crazy delusional assumption that we were going to lend it to this entitled crazy Karen that we had never met in our lives. There are some crazy people in this world. This lady saw these pictures on social media and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna use those for my daughter's wedding. Like, that's just not how the world works. And then she basically tried to steal it with a fake receipt, calling the police and everything. The original poster went on to say that this entitled Karen had convinced all of her family and friends that yes, she had indeed bought both of those arches. And so they also got sucked into this weird lie. So hopefully next time something's posted on social media, maybe make sure they can't figure out where you live. Otherwise, another crazy Karen might start knocking on your door and try and steal something that you worked really hard on. I feel like my boyfriend is being emotionally abusive, but I'm honestly not sure and I don't know what to do. I am a 29-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend for 4 years. In the beginning, his friends would make a comment about the clothing I was wearing and how I should cover up. He is really easily influenced by what other people say, and so he made comments about that same subject. He made comments about how much makeup I wear, as well as the music that I will listen to. That was a long time ago, and we honestly honestly moved past it, and I wear whatever I want and I listen to the music that I want to listen to. These past couple months have been extremely rough. I have 2 kids he has practically raised for the past 4 years. Randomly over the last couple months, he has just turned into a very mean person. Everything is an argument with him now. I took some time away to reflect, and he told me that he would see a therapist for his anger, but to this day he still hasn't done that. We opened up our own company, and I feel like it is going to his head. He randomly left for 2 weeks to go to Ohio for a golfing tournament. He went golfing 3 times this week, just disregarding any responsibilities in the house. He has made comments about my weight, which I am currently working on, and he has asked me not to drink during the weekdays, which I agreed to. But he keeps track of how much is in the bottle and puts a date by it with a permanent marker. I've been asking him for months to put up shelves in my daughter's room, and he finds every excuse in the world not to do it. If he decides to take a day off from work, it's going to be for his friends or golfing, and he tells me that I just have to accept it and that this is just who he is, and that's what makes him happy, with very little regard for me or the kids. I got off work today at 3 o'clock, but he didn't work today, and I asked him yesterday if he could put the tape up in my daughter's room, as we have been planning on painting it for the past 3 weeks, and the paint has just been sitting there. He was at the mall where I was working to get his phone fixed, and he randomly told me that he was going to go and look at cars. At the time, I didn't want to say much about the painting of the room, as I just knew it wouldn't get done, and I didn't want to start another argument. And these are just a few examples where my boyfriend will do something only if he wants it done. When it came to looking for cars, I offered to go with him, so we left my car at the mall and drove to a few dealerships. The first dealership we went to, we went inside and he was talking to the guy, and the guy asked a question and said, "Are you thinking about trading in your Mustang?" I talked and said, "Oh yes, we definitely are." But he looked at me and shut me down, saying that I didn't need to talk, all the while giving me a long hard stare and rubbing my arms. And at that point I was so embarrassed, and I could tell the other guy was embarrassed as well, and I didn't say anything after that. He told me I was the one that embarrassed him by even talking in the first place. He apologized a little bit later, but I just ignored him, and then he blew up on me, and I asked him, "What if I had said something back to you?" To which he said that he would have made me go sit in the car, and that if I didn't listen, he would have dropped me off and drove back. Later, he fully admitted to being rude, but stated that he didn't care. I want to try and chalk it up as him going through some sort of midlife crisis, as he's turning 30 next year, and maybe he doesn't want to have a family right now, and maybe he just wants to be a single person and go golfing and hunting and hang out with his friends all the time, or the money from the company is going to his head or something like that. I quit my job to create this company for him. I stayed at home putting in countless hours, and now that we have the company up and going, he told me I needed to find a second job and basically cut my paychecks into a third of what it used to be. So now I have a job at the mall as well as working for him. After he dropped me off at my car, I just parked at Target and spent a couple hours alone on my phone just so I could breathe. And he called me multiple times and said that me not answering is only making things worse. I am home now and I'm just emotionally exhausted, dealing with us for months and months now. I want to see things from his side, but I just feel like he's turning into a really cocky person who wants someone better looking. He always went for girls who worked at restaurants like Hooters, and honestly, I am not that kind of girl. I'm just average. He used to be such a caring and sweet person, and I'm trying to do everything in my power to give him his freedom so that we can get back to just being happy, but I don't really know what to do at this point. Everything is honestly so confusing, and I'm kind of at a loss. What should I do? I think to spell it out, you are absolutely being emotionally abused. This man is using you and abusing you, and he is basically trying to treat you like a kid. He doesn't let you talk at the dealership. He's cutting your paycheck down. He's shutting you down at the dealership, acting like you don't know how to negotiate anything. He's calling you names and all these other things. All of this honestly adds up to him being incredibly abusive, and you do not need that in your life. So if anything, I don't think it's too late to get out of this relationship, because based on what you're describing, this man is going to rake in all the money for this business that you built up unless you do something about it right now. And it does sound like he's trying to kick you out. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't take this for a second. I would take my daughters and I would move on to somebody else, because you know what? This is not something you should have to put up with. And I really think you would be better off with anyone else. I found out that my girlfriend has continued contact with her ex, and I honestly don't know what to do. My girlfriend and I have been together for approximately 3 months now. We started dating rather recently after she broke up with her ex-boyfriend. They were dating for about 8 months. She explained to me that after 8 months, he still did not put any effort into the relationship. He would ignore her for days on end while he partied constantly. She got tired of being strung along and just moved on. After she ended things with him, he suddenly played the victim card, stating if she breaks up with him, he's going to be depressed and he's not going to be able to function, as well as all these other weird excuses. For the first month of our relationship, he continued texting her on a daily basis, asking her to get back together with him and that he is now a changed man and all this other stuff. She denied him and asked me if I can drive her to his apartment so she can collect her belongings, as she was not wanting to go to his place for a while. I waited outside in my vehicle and she returned about 15 minutes later with a small box of stuff. She told me that he looked like a complete zombie, sweating profusely, like he hasn't eaten or slept in 4 days, and gave her a handwritten love letter. Days later, he continued begging her to get back together with him, and that's when we had made a decision about it and told her that I'm not comfortable with that. She asked me what would make me feel comfortable, and I asked her if she can tell him to stop messaging her and block his number, which she did instantly. Fast forward about 2 months now, and 2 weeks ago I brought him up to her and asked her if he's tried contacting her again or if he has moved on. She stated he has not attempted to contact her and has no idea if he has moved on, as there has been no communication between them, as he was blocked on that same day. Yesterday, we were sitting on the couch watching TV, and I stood up to go to the kitchen. I forgot my phone on the coffee table, which I wanted to use to refer to a recipe, so I turned around to walk back to the living room. She did not hear me, and as I leaned past to grab my phone, I noticed she was texting her ex-boyfriend. I asked to see her phone, which she showed me, and revealed that yes, she had blocked his number 2 months ago, but he was unblocked the next day, and they had been texting behind my back every day since. There has even been one occurrence 2 weeks ago when she told him that she is on her break at work and to bring her a coffee, which he did, and then they hung out during her work break. A large majority of those messages were him begging her to get back together. I was obviously angry and hurt about this, and that she had been lying to me and not respecting the boundary we put in place. I then asked her how she would feel if the roles were reversed, and that I was doing that with my ex-girlfriend, and she stated that she never thought about that once, and that she would be upset as well. She explained to me that the reason she kept the conversation going was that she found out he had to go on stress leave from work for 3 weeks because he couldn't sleep, eat, or function. She stated that she felt guilty that she caused that pain upon him and took it upon herself to try and fix it. She also stated that he made some very scary remarks about his self-care, in which she wanted to make sure that it wouldn't happen, and felt like continuing the contact with him in person and over message was her way of making sure that he didn't hurt himself. I'm having mixed emotions regarding this. I obviously understand her point of view and the explanation as to why the conversation continued, but I do not agree with how she went about doing it. I feel like he played the victim card in order to continue having her in his life. She explained to me that he would pack up his belongings in the blink of an eye and leave to a different city for a week just to go to some party and not even tell her until he is there, and just ignore her for the entire week. Or how he would only want to spend time with her for about 2 to 3 hours a week and only send her about 2 to 3 messages during the other 6 days of the week. He clearly functioned perfectly well on his own, and then all of the sudden, the moment she ends things, he suddenly can't function and has to go on stress leave from work. With all things considered, the trust I had in her took a hit, and the fact that she lied to me and continued to lie to me about this really hurts. I'm struggling right now on whether I'm being unreasonable or overthinking this entire situation. What should I do? I think you hit the nail on the head personally. Your girlfriend went behind your back and has continuously texted this ex-boyfriend, and I honestly just would not be happy about this either. You set boundaries and she stepped over them. She straight up lied to you about this, and in my opinion, this is not something I would let slide. So if anything, it's time to have a serious conversation with your girlfriend, because something has to be done here, because it really comes down to the fact that she can either be loyal to the relationship that she currently has, or this relationship is going to fall apart, and it's honestly only going to be her fault. My girlfriend of 4 months lied to me about her relationship with a coworker. She even went as far as to delete her text messages with them. So as a result, I ended the relationship. Here's what happened. Tonight, I was hanging out with my girlfriend at my house after she had just quit her job. As we're hanging out, she receives a FaceTime call from a guy I've never heard of. I asked her who it was, and she told me it was her coworker. I told her to call him back and see what he wanted. When he answered. He told her that he heard that she had quit and was in her city. He said he was bored and wanted to see her. She tried to shut it down, but he told her that she knows that she has a boyfriend. He kept trying, but she shut it down again. Honestly, I was shocked, and I was furious that this coworker that I've never heard of basically called my girlfriend just to try and get with her. I asked her questions about it, and she said she barely had a relationship with him, and she only had his number because he needed it to ask her for the code to open up. She told me they never text each other, and even showed me that there was no text messages. She swore to me on everything that she was telling me the truth, and they never had conversations through text message, only at work. I wanted to believe her, but I have trouble trusting anyone. I asked her to show me the messages on Microsoft Teams at work. In those messages, she was being dry, but when he asked for her number so they could have unmonitored conversations, she willingly gave it to him. She would even go as far as to DoorDash food for him at work. It is clear that they were closer than she made it seem. They were texting each other, and she was deleting the messages to hide them from me. She lied to me about the circumstances of their relationship. Somewhere along those lines, the guy became comfortable enough with her to try and hang out with her at 10 o'clock at night. I don't believe they hung out before outside of work because of how he handled the phone call when she turned him down. Regardless, I ended the relationship. I told her I appreciate her time with me, but she lied to me and hid something I couldn't handle. She apologized for lying and left my house. Currently though, I'm in pain. This is as close to being cheated on as I've ever been. I truly loved her, and I wanted it to work out, but I don't think I'd ever trust her again, and I definitely couldn't handle finding out that I've been lied to again. So what would you do if you were in my shoes? Because I really did like her, and I really believe I made the best decision for me. I think breaking up with her really was the best choice. She blatantly lied to you about another guy that she was talking to, and the fact that you got this early on in the relationship is massive as well. Can you imagine finding out about this years later after you've completely fallen in love with her? That would have been an absolute nightmare. Too many times, coworkers can become a lot more than just coworkers, and I think you saw exactly what was happening and you did what was best for you. So I wouldn't be so heartbroken over this if I were you. You did the right thing and you did exactly what you should have done in this situation. An entitled customer doesn't understand that I don't work the coffee shop and keeps demanding that I make her coffee after I made it once on the fly just to get her to shut up. Here's what happened. So I work at a big brand name hotel chain that gets mostly business travelers. We have a restaurant and coffee bar, no self-serve and nothing continental. The other day, I was trying to manage a crisis, all while providing guests with what they needed. I work the front desk. I look like the front desk. I wear a plaid button-up and a vest. The name on my name tag is also on the wall under manager on duty. It is not a secret that I am working the front desk. So with that in mind, this woman came up to me mid-managing at about 6 in the morning and actually complained that there was nobody at the coffee bar to serve her and this other gentleman some coffee. The coffee bar wasn't open at the time. It was too early and it wouldn't be open for another 20 minutes. Literally, the hours are plastered all over the thing. But okay, whatever. I let her know their hours and that I'm the front desk and that I would be happy to swap hats and grab her some coffee. This is all just me trying to give some good customer service. I asked her what coffee she wanted. I then also got the gentleman's order too. He wants a plain black for himself and a cafe latte for his wife. He was an elderly, very simple looking guy who seemed very confused as to what his wife wanted. So sure, whatever. I make the coffees that they're asking for. And while I'm running through the coffee orders and making small talk with the gentleman about the specifics of these coffee drinks just to make sure that I'm getting it correctly, I spot the woman again over at the front desk looking around. I go over to her and I say, "Ma'am, did you need something from the front desk?" She says,
"Oh, you're that barista. Yes, I need a pen."
And when she said I'm just the barista, I looked at her and I reiterated by saying, "Oh no, I'm front desk actually. But there are pens at the computer station about 3 feet from where she was sitting originally." After I explained all this, she looks at me and says,
"No, you're not. You don't work the front desk."
And she said that like I was making a joke, and then goes to the computer station. Meanwhile, the actual barista is about 2 feet away, wearing an apron with the name of the coffee bar on his shirt. He looked at me like that woman had just spoken in tongues. So I just went back to making the stupid coffee. So I gave the gentleman his coffee. He had been there first after all. And in the middle of talking to him about how he would like to pay for it, considering once again that the coffee bar's not open and he needed to pay me at the front desk, this woman grabs a coffee out of my hand, which coincidentally enough was hers. Not that she knew that at the time. And this was literally in the middle of her asking,
"Is this one mine?" wine?
She had the lid off and was pouring sugar in it before I could even answer the question. I was tempted to say, no, it's not actually, just to try and make her a little bit uncomfortable, but I decided against it. She said I made it perfectly, and she was so glad she got a real barista to make her coffee for her. Again, for the 17th time, I'm the front desk. I didn't even say anything that time except, oh, thank you. I'm so glad you like it. About 20 minutes later, while at the desk actually doing my real job, she comes over and asks me why I'm at the desk, while also requesting I do more tasks for her, or if she needs to wait for the front desk to arrive, and then she can ask them. This lady really isn't getting it. I say again, ma'am, I'm the front desk actually. I'd be happy to help you. And she looks at me and then her coffee, like I put rat poison in it, and said,
Then how did you make me coffee?
and at this point I was just beyond myself, because I wanted to say, I made that coffee because I have more than one brain cell, lady. The next day at around the same time, she came up to me and said,
Oh, you're the barista that made the perfect coffee. Could I ask you to make another?
and she said this while I was literally at the front desk doing paperwork. But despite how stupid this lady sounded, I still ended up making this lady some coffee. All things considered though, this lady isn't even the dumbest person I've ever had to deal with at this job. And somehow, these customers just seem to only get worse. Talk about not reading context clues. The front desk literally said over and over again, hey, I don't make coffee normally, I'm just trying to do good customer service. You would think that after the 7th time, they would get the hint and finally catch on that this person just works the front desk. But I guess the original poster did such a good job that this stupid lady thought she could come back to her and get another delicious coffee. So who knows, maybe she has a start to a new career as a coffee shop owner. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.